In this lesson, we will learn how to take a few numbers from the user and then add them up and output them as the sum. So this is an easy example, but there are a few things to learn here. So let's jump right in. So I'll first demonstrate the code and then I will write it up from scratch. So I have already written it up, but so just open and let's go to desktop and we have this add to demo.py. Here is the code and we just run it for now, and it says input the first number. We'll say 34 and then we will say 90, and the sum of the two numbers is 124, and then it waits for us to press enter again, and then the prompt comes back. So let's see how to do this now. As you might have seen from the little code that popped up, this just takes 4 lines, or it can be done even in 3 line, I think, but yeah. So this is easy, but we will break it down and go through it very slowly so that you can understand what exactly is going on. There are a few things to break down here. So what I will do is I will write the code line by line in here, and then would that be the best idea? Yeah, I think so. So let's start writing this here, and once we have understood how the various pieces of the code works, then we will go back to code, Visual Studio Code, and then write it up there and run it in the terminal. Sounds good? Let's go. So the first thing we have to do is take a few user inputs. So we already learned how to do that, and that is using the input function, and then we assign a variable. So we say num1. This will be our number 1. By the way, just as a side note, in Python you cannot start a variable name with a number. So if I try to do this, let's try to call it 10, you see that this doesn't work. It says syntax error because this is an invalid. So in Python you cannot start a variable name with a number. It has to be a letter. So that's a side note. So we'll say num1 equals input, and we say please input the first number, colon space, and you see that if I run this, it immediately asks me for the first number. So that is working. So let's say that is 23 again. Let's copy this line and paste it, because we have to do the same thing but ask for the second number and change the variable name to number 2, because this is our second number. And if I run this again, you will see that indeed it runs and asks for the second number. Let's say that is 45. So now is when we have to think. So let's see what we have in the memory. So if we ask for number 1, we can see that it is 23, but do you see the little quotation marks around it? That means this is not an integer, this is a string. This is very important. Why this is important is because, so number 1, as I was saying, that this is a string, and you can see that same is true for number 2. Why is that? Because the input function always gives you a string back. So the input function returns a string, it doesn't return an integer. this is where all that data type discussion that we did last time is very important. So that the computer thinks these are letters, you know, these are not numbers. The computer does not recognize these things as numbers. This is very important. So what happens if we try to add these? What is num1 plus num2? So remember, these are strings, and what happens if we say string plus string? It concatenates them. It doesn't do mathematical add, it concatenates them, right? Just like if we had, say, Python and we plus another thing with it, what will get back? Python thing, right? So it concatenates them. If the objects are string, this plus has the effect of joining them. So that's what happened. That is not what we want. We want to add it. So we now have to do a data type conversion. This is known as typecasting. That's a technical term for it, but this is where you convert one type of data to another. So we know that this should be an integer. So what we can do is we can cast the value. The way we do that is by doing this. So we say num1 is equals to integer of num1. Okay, this might look a bit confusing to some people, but what is happening here is that, remember, we were reassigning variables earlier. Like we can have foo here, for example, then that is a bit more clear. So foo is the integer converted value of num1. So instead of storing this in foo, we can store that value back in num1. So num1 is the integer conversion of num1 now. If we do this and then say type of num1, you will see that this is now an integer, and if we try to return it, you will see that the quotation marks are gone. That means this is an integer. The computer knows that this is a number. We can do a similar thing with num2. So we work that integer and num2. Turn my mic. Do that real quick. Num2 is the integer of num2, and if we do that, then now both of these are numbers. Okay, good. So now if we add these two up, we get the correct added value. Okay, very nice. So now we have to print it. So we can do this. We can just say print num1 plus num2. That will actually work. What we can also do is we can store num1 and num2 in another variable. So let's say sum. Yeah, so see, as soon as I wrote sum became red. That means this sum is actually a function. This is not ideal. So if that happens, if you see that this name is already taken, you can add my to it, so then that is not taken anymore. So basically sum is an existing function. I know that. So if you can pass a list to sum, and then it will add up all the elements in the list and give you the sum back. That's possible, but that's another point. So just remember that if you see that anytime, just change the variable name, because that avoids confusion and so on. So we can basically store the result in another variable and then try to print that. Gives us the same result. Good. But if we want to print a little bit nicer of a message, if we want to say that the sum is space colon space plus my sum. Now this will fail because notice what we are trying to do here. We are trying to add or concatenate or join, in this case that's what we want actually, a string to an integer. That does not work. That's what it says. Can concatenate string, not integer, to string. Just notice how clear of an error that is, how descriptive of an error that is. It tells you exactly what is wrong. So yes, you cannot concatenate a string to an int. That does not work. So concatenation only works between two strings. So what's the solution? What we can do is cast this result back to string, just like this. So this converts the integer, that is my sum, back to string, and now the concatenation will work because this is a string, that is a string. So now this works. So that's a lot to take in probably. So I will do this one more time and a bit more quickly probably, but still I'll explain. So let's do this in Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new file. Call this add2.py. So what we do first is take an input. So our num1 is equal to, of course, input of is input number, first number, the first number, space, copy that line, paste it below, change this to second, change that to num2. So now the num1 and num2 are strings, so adding them would not work. They will be concatenated, not added, they will be joined. So we have to cast these strings to integer. So we can do this, num1 is equal to integer of num1, num2 is equal to integer of num2, and then we can add them. So we can say my sum. As you remember, the sum is taken, so I think if I write sum here, okay, that doesn't recognize it, but sum is in fact taken. So just to avoid confusion, you can also say result. That's also possible. You can put any name here, but being descriptive is better. So you can say result is equal to num1 plus num2. Now that will work, and then we can try printing it out. So print the sum is space plus. Now remember, we have to cast it back. So string sum, result. Okay, so okay, so the mistake there. Okay, so now and because we'll run this from the command line, let's just put an input there so that the program doesn't immediately exit and waits for us. So let's go here this time and run it. So let's say 345 and then let's say 562 and the sum is 907. That is correct. Okay, so our program works. Now let's see how to condense this. So in Python, you can do a lot in one line. So as you remember, the code that I wrote was just 2 lines. So in fact, this is redundant. This is not necessary. You can convert this directly in one line. That is possible. This will also work, and then we can get rid of this. This is also redundant, so we can put this here. That will also work. And yes, so that is our code now, just 4 lines. So just to verify this works, I have saved it. You see that it works. It's exactly the same. But yeah, but this may not be as easy to read as it is for me. So just so that it is easy for you to read, you can write it like this also, so that everything is clear cut. So that is how to input 2 values from the user and then print their sum. That's it. As an exercise, you can think of many things that you can do. So now we have 2 numbers in memory. Think of what you can do with them. You can do whatever you wish with them pretty much. So think of some creative stuff that you can do with them and let me know. That's it. So closing up, this is I think how far my brother has reached so far in the first class. If I'm informed correctly, then he finished data structure, and that is how far he got. So that's it, guys. So I think this will be helpful. So whoever is trying to catch up with the class, this resource should be helpful to them. I know that these videos I'm not going to edit them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time fiddling around with editing and stuff like that. These are just recorded and put out there as is. So there are some silences, there are some awkward pauses here and there. Just bear with it, and yeah, good luck, have fun, learn how to code. Bye bye.